Presentation could just be put on the screen. Thanks. I'm just trying to work out how the clicker works. Anyone here with a degree in computer science that knows how a clicker works? Where do I need to point, guys? Yeah. Okay, got it. So I have to stand here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. I'm very much like a fish out of water here today, knowing that I'm from computer science and we're interested in coding. But digital humanities kind of makes me feel home. The word digital, we understand. Maybe let's wait a minute for others to come in quickly. I see a lot of people entering from there now. Okay, that was one way to get them quiet. Okay, so after listening to the Dean speak this morning, I thought I'll change my slide. The previous speaker mentioned tanks. Are you still here? Now, this is the tank story you're listening today. Just as a joke. Initially, tanks was a military game with a tank shooting at rubble, didn't shoot people. And then I went to Germany, and my colleagues in Germany said, no, you can't talk tanks here. And I thought it was a gender issue, so I made the tank pink. But that's like putting lipstick on a pig. It didn't help. So maybe by saying it's about people, I'm putting lipstick on a pig here, and you might say, nah, you're talking coding. I'm really going to do my best to show you that what I'm talking about is people. And coding is just a tool to make people resilient. And I hope that is just as relevant to you guys as to our department. Okay, I want to start with this quote. As the Tangible Africa project, you'll know more about it after my talk, we have facilitators working all over the country. And last year I heard of a student of mine told me of this gogo who was very sick. And our facilitator near Kunu, where Mandela stayed, sent this back to me. We visited the old lady. We found her on a bed, waiting for her grandchildren to come back from school to give her food and treatment. We gave her food and her medicine. If it was not because of her grant to feed the children, I would pray to God to take her to himself. The lady said, actually, I don't know how old I am, but say I'm 80 plus years. I'll revisit Gogo at the end of my talk. So my story as a computer science academic is in 2000, about 25 years ago, literally, I was tasked by my department to go out into mainly the Eastern Cape, and not to promote only our department, but to promote the discipline of computer science. So this is a typical photo of me in a township school, in an urban school, in a deep rural school in Kala, wherever in the Eastern Cape. But whenever I spoke about computer science to a bunch of learners in a school which does not have electricity, I always felt I'm wasting my time here. I'm talking in a vacuum, and I specifically remember driving away from KwaZulu one afternoon and thinking, they don't have a clue. And that was a burden on me. And often my students would come to me from mainly township and rural and say, Prof, we need to tell the learners about coding, about computers. Because in the rural areas, all the learners with good marks want to become doctors or engineers, sometimes pilots. But no one wants to become a computer scientist. So from our discipline, that was a burden. And then in January 2017, Byron Batterson walks into my office, an honors student, fourth year, and he says to me, Prof, I've got an idea for my project. I want to develop a project that will teach coding to learners without the need of computers, without the need of electricity, and without the need of internet. And that's where tanks started. That was Byron's idea. And I'm going to structure my talk on these 5 topics. I also heard global relevance, inclusivity, engagement this morning, which were the objectives of Byron's Honours Project in 2017. I want you to just watch this video so you have more or less an idea what I'm talking about.
Tangible teaches coding concepts without the use of computers. This promotes computational design, collaboration, creativity, and communication, all while having fun and playing games. How does it work? Learners identify a problem on the screen. They put the device down and then build a solution with our customized puzzle pieces. They use the device to then test the solution. The device internalizes the code from the puzzle pieces, then executes the code to see if they got it right. Because it's a game, they don't mind failing and trying again, building up a character that never quits. On top of being super fun and engaging, these concepts are aligned with critical learning standards of the school curriculum, making it relevant for any class. The great thing about studying tangible coding concepts in school is that you are instantly connected to a community of schools on a global stage and can compete in our annual Coding World Cup. At Tangible, we believe that the concepts coding provides are the building blocks in the classroom to teach learners creative problem solving, which is a key skill set for the future.
So you've seen that tongue-in-cheek, we've decolonized tanks. It's now game poaching in Africa, which is more accessible in Europe. But I'll talk more about other games. What you've seen there is kids playing literally in a rural school close to Gqeberha, up to his kids playing in Dallas, USA last year, August. So it's become a global game. Inclusivity for us means that of the 24,000 schools in South Africa, 16,000 do not have computer laboratories. So if we don't have inclusive solutions that do not need computer labs in anything we do, we're forgetting millions of kids and we're leaving them behind on the wrong side of the digital divide. That's what inclusivity means to us as Tangible Africa. Okay. I don't want to show this video again. Okay. So we are teaching, and I won't go into the coding concepts now. We are teaching the coding concepts that any professor at Harvard or Nelson Mandela University would be teaching first-year students in the first term of their first year. And this is taught using cell phones, which most people have, and it can literally happen under a tree. That's a photo not staged from a facilitator in Zambia, where she literally played the game under a tree in Zambia, in rural northeast Zambia. Inclusivity also means, and apply this to your discipline, it also means not leaving the teacher behind. And the important quote for me there is, with one, where does he talk about? My principal and my colleagues are widely smiling, seeing potential in their kids. I call this, we talk about fear of missing out. I call it, I think this thing is going, so I'm going to have to shout. I call it anxiety of missing out. The headmasters, the teachers watch news. They listen to the radio. They listen to our politicians, our academics talking about the fourth industrial revolution and all the other fancy things that we talk about. But they realize we don't have the resources to educate our kids. And I've literally once saw a headmaster started crying when he introduced him to this tool. Inclusivity also means different types of learners. So what you see here on the top left-hand right is senior learners that is visually impaired. They're playing our game by the fact that we increase the tokens so that they can see them. We've also changed the contrast on the game. On the top right is one of our biggest heroes, Masi. He's blind, grade 11. We redid our games with Braille and 3D printed levels, so Masi can play the whole game without seeing anything. And then the bottom this is from Cape Town last week, For the foundation phase kids, we've created what we call a tactile grid mat, where they can't see the whole position, they can't move the things, but they can feel them. So it was heartwarming to see those kids flat on their tummy, feeling where the positions are, and then executing the code. That was at the AWS headquarters last week. I want you to see, is this a video? This is Masi, a grade 11 blind learner, teaching 2 blind teachers how to code. You can see they feel the levels, the challenge, and he's got the tokens there that he can touch. They went on for a very long time, where Masi became the teacher. And he's actually now at the Kanyisa School for the Blind, one of the facilitators teaching the grade 8s coding. My dream is that he will start working for Tangible Africa after matric as a blind teacher. We have implementation partners all over the world. These are just some. I just put it up there so you can see that one of our biggest implementation partners are libraries. I heard libraries mentioned earlier today, because libraries is probably the most effective tool in most communities. So we have active partnership with Joburg, Cape Town, Ekurhuleni, and eThekwini libraries, as well as libraries in Kenya and Uganda. Engagement. We always say it doesn't help you include people, but what you bring to them is boring. Then inclusion doesn't help. So engagement means the learner must want to be part of this. My wife's been teaching 30 years, foundation phase teaching, and she has not found a tool, let's say, better at engagement than ours. So engagement is always a win for us. So the first thing that we see engagement works is when we train the teachers, and they can't stop. What you see on the left-hand side is teachers in Indonesia that were taught last year, May. On the right-hand side is South African teachers. And we always have to kind of let them run away from the table or pack away the tokens or stand up, because it's impossible for them to stop. That's what engagement means. It's an addiction. You can't stop. When you have the tokens, you've got a next level to solve. If education can rely on that kind of positive addiction, imagine. Engagement also implies, because we have levels in the game, we can have tournaments. So we have schools competing against each other. We've got coding leagues in the townships in Gqeberha, as well as in the Model C schools. Our biggest flagship event is Coding for Mandela every year. That is at the captive site outside Howick. Last year we had 32,000 learners playing all over Africa and in Indonesia, which culminated in a World Cup in December from 22 countries. Coding is becoming a spectator sport. I hope you're seeing the golden thread. It's about people. I don't really need to talk to you about coding. We're getting people involved, kids, educators. And it's not only about teaching kids how to code. 3% of the kids in the schools will become software developers. So are we doing all of this for 3%? No. It's about teaching them problem-solving, strategy, group work, communication, and giving instructions, listening instructions. I can go on and on and on. The 21st century skills, which they learn through playing this game. We also nurture the talent we identify through to matric, because we say we don't need to teach you software, we need to get you into a good maths so that you can go and study coding after school. I want to quickly teach you about computational thinking. Who knows computational thinking? Okay. These phases, just wanted to show you why this is not just coding. Computational thinking, if you're married, listen. This is going to stop all your fights, the rest of your marriage. Okay, so what we have here is the game. The car needs to get to the poacher. Can you all see that? It's on a grid. I'm not going to do coding with you. The first thing that you need to do when you do that, you're actually doing it automatically. You're noticing that the blocks on both sides are irrelevant. That's called abstraction. Abstraction is the skill for any human being, married or not, to know what to fight about and what not to fight about. What to worry about and know what not to worry about. Critical life skill, whether you're a coder or not, abstraction. And then you see, but this path breaks up into 3 parts. Okay, it's kind of very obvious. The kids do this with every challenge. Breaking a bigger problem into smaller problems is so critical for anyone, whether you're an adult or a grade R child. We've got a stunning video of kids outside in Tata that played the game. Some big shot from DOE said to them, "What do you learn from coding?" And she said, "It learns me to make decisions. It learns me to look at a big problem, break it up into smaller parts, and tackle each one on its own." In computers, that's called decomposition. And then you see, but these 3 parts are actually the same. They're exactly the same. Go forward, hit a wall, turn right. Go forward, hit a wall, turn right. Go forward, hit a wall, turn right. In coding and computational thinking, that is called pattern recognition. So have you ever fought with your partner about something you fought about last year? You just shout, pattern recognition, there's a solution, move on. Okay? Have you ever fought with your children about something you solved yesterday? Make it a buzzword in your family, pattern recognition. What did we say yesterday? Move on. And that applies in every aspect of life. Pattern recognition. So we've got abstraction, get rid of the nonsense. Decomposition, make big problems small ones. Pattern recognition, don't reinvent the wheel twice. And then the last one is a very fancy word. That's the coding. I won't bother you with that today. Algorithm, or in human language, a list of instructions. A list of steps to solve a problem. And that is what grade R teachers start teaching their kids. That is what I taught my 8-month-old this weekend at Esterrivier. Just throw the ball. It's one step. If you have the ability to solve a problem by recognizing there's a few instructions I need to do in a sequence, you're well away. That's why computational thinking and all of what we do at Tangible is relevant to all kids and adults. Global relevance, that's our global engagement manager, Jackson Tshabalala, who you saw in the video. Just out of interest, on the right-hand side is one of the biggest slums in Africa, outside Nairobi. On the left-hand side is Maasai kids playing our game. We were invited for training in Ireland 2 years ago, and I thought, oh, we've got this training and it's all good and well. We're in an environment where there's no computers, people want to do it. What happens when you go to Ireland and everyone has a computer? Within 5 minutes, we sold it to all teachers, and they were just as excited as a teacher in Lusikisiki. Why? There was engagement. There was fun. There was interaction between them. It wasn't rote learning. And that's a universal need for all teachers. In Ireland, our project is currently used, if you know the microbit from BBC, is using in the same box as the microbit to do a national PhD study on teacher confidence in Ireland. Interesting, in America, when we were there in August, the reason they liked it, they said, you're taking our kids away from phones. Because the game, if you see it, you interact with the puzzle pieces, and now and then you pick up the phone. And in America, that was the big seller. Our kids are on the phone too much. We've also developed new games for Europe and for Africa. The one is soccer, the other one is Grand Prix racing. We've just developed one for farming in the Western Cape. We're working on one for the Girl Guides in UK, as well as for the British military. We're going to develop a game. So this is an invitation. If any of you think you could do research on using a game within a theme, it is now not difficult if you apply the certain mechanisms to develop a game that uses our same puzzle pieces within a certain theme. And you might have noticed the video with Jackson earlier. When you finish with a level, a fact pops up. That could also be a multiple choice question. Because in Ireland, they're integrating coding in the curriculum. So they ask for that. So if you're teaching geography, you let them code, and then after each level, they need to know something from the textbook to go on to the next level. So that's an open invitation. If someone wants to talk to me, when we have capacity, we can look at something like that. Just our impact, we've reached over 200,000 learners. trained 40,000 teachers, had 32,000 learners at Mandela Day last year, about 100 sites across the continent, and 55 teams from 22 countries. But impact, I'm going to skip that now before I get there. This, to me, is the biggest impact we've had in South Africa the past 4 years. The new coding and robotics curriculum, probably not as relevant to many of you, but for me it's integral to my life. What coding and robotics will be taught from grade R to grade 9 in our primary schools. And when we came to the meetings 3 years ago, and what I'm talking about is called unplugged coding, without computers. The word unplugged coding was viewed very negatively. Literally the words that were used in shouting at me was, "You're a colonialist bringing an inferior education to the black child." That was the attitude in government, in unions, and teachers. And after 3 years where we did unplugged coding to 40,000 teachers, to hundreds of thousands of learners, it has totally swung. So that the foundation phase curriculum now is 100% unplugged. The implication is the foundation phase curriculum can be implemented in every primary school, all 23,000 in the country. If there were devices involved, we would drop down to 10,000 schools. Critical, critical. We're also driving a big project where every week we develop lessons directly aligned to the new CAPS curriculum, which the teachers are downloading via our chatbot for free. So every week they're getting a CAPS curriculum lesson, and by the end of the year they'll have a whole textbook at no cost. But it's about people, and I'm going to end off with that. Those are just some of the learners, and there are many others who have come through our program and who are now studying computer science or computer engineering or engineering, either with our university, UCT, CPUT, UKZN, I met this week, UCT, quite a number of them. Nelson Mandela's one of his famous quotes is kind of the philosophy we do. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. And if you're talking humanities and digitalizing humanities, and that's not your aim, you're thinking Western. Your aim must be that the son of a farm worker in deep, deep rural Mpumalanga must be able to be touched to become an engineer. And if your digital move makes it difficult for that child in Mpumalanga to be reached, you're on the wrong track. You're trying to write a paper or trying to impress a politician. I feel strongly about this because our politicians like laboratories and robots moving around. They don't like puzzle pieces. As educationists, it's our responsibility to make that true. The Diepsloot guy traveled to Diepsloot from Garankuwa 2 years ago, wrote me on a WhatsApp, I have no clue what to do in my life, played an hour of our game, wrote back and said to me, I now know what I'm going to do. His marks was too low. He went onto YouTube in the middle of Garankuwa squatter camp, improved his marks up to 75, got a bursary from Amazon, is now studying BSc Computer Science, second year at the University of Pretoria. That is the son of a farm worker. And that needs to be your aim in everything you do. And I want to show you this. I call it the dance of joy. This guy from Garankuwa sent me this. You don't need to understand the computer science. I can just say to you, it's difficult stuff. He does it in his free time. That's just to show you what coding is, so that you get worried. I want you to see that. That's the dance of joy of someone from Garankuwa in a squatter camp that improved his marks by going onto YouTube and applying a lot of mathematics and graphics to make that happen. Back to the Gogo. The Gogo's grandson, Bavuyile, attended one of the bank seater workshops by Lusanda. I showed you right at the start over the laptop in grade 11. It convinced him to study computer science. He came to study computer science with us last year, January. In August, Gogo died. He fell into a depression. We had to get a psychologist in to counsel him throughout the second semester. It's not a silver bullet. He's back this year. Totally a new person, invigorated to study. We couldn't do anything about Gogo. She died in poverty, worried about our grandchildren. But we could, through education, break the cycle of poverty in whatever discipline we are, not only computer science. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any questions before Prof. Greyling sits down? I think this is quite interesting because we shifted from the fully technology into a much more practical, contextualized response. Any questions? Yes, we got the microphone.
Sean, it's really nice to hear you speak. Thank you very much. I've always seen your work as the successor to Seymour Papet's Turtle. Have you received any feedback from MIT about the work that you've done?
Yeah, we're very proud of Seymour Papet. If you don't know him, he's the father of child coding. He's a South African. We went to MIT. No, we haven't received any feedback from him or from them personally, but we went to Code.org last year in Seattle. We were there in their offices 2 times. Code.org is the biggest movement in the world that teaches kids coding. They reach 80 million kids. And we are talking about a possible partnership. They were super excited about what we do. But Simon Papet is in all our articles. He's the guru.
Good afternoon. I heard you talking about a lesson for coding and robotics that you are preparing for teachers to use. How do we download them?
I can't understand. I can't. Oh, how do you download the game? Yeah, come.
How do we download the lesson?
You can just come to me afterwards. I'll give you a business card. It's if you type in Tangible Africa on the website, there's a menu option that says our coding games. You can download the game, but you need the tokens. I don't want to sound like a salesman, but yeah, we're selling the tokens at 200 Rand, but we're subsidizing 90% of them. We're distributing them for free with corporate sponsorships.
Good afternoon. My name is Seymour. I'm from the Afrikaans department. I think what I have gained now is your approach and realization that not all schools do have technologies that we're talking about. And this is for me the highlight of this today. Because we can speak about technologies, but during COVID, only 20% of the country's learners that had access to Wi-Fi and data.
Yeah.
That's our reality. And important here is, if we want, as a higher education institution, we want to make a difference in the lives of people, we need to start where they are, from foundation and early childhood learning. We want to start here. Look at those students this morning. What I would say here is, the question was raised this morning, what do we prepare our students for? And they gave us the answer. You don't have to be a designer or IT tech person, but they can become whatever you want to be. Out of my personal experience, I'm a trained teacher, but I was a manager at the company. You see, I think sometimes we think because you are in Afrikaans department or in this department, you can't integrate subjects. And I think you have highlighted the fact that we need to realize where we are now at the States in terms of our socio-economic gaps in South Africa.
Quick response. Even Bill Gates Foundation is now not talking about high-tech solutions in Africa. They're saying that's a failure. They're talking, the word now is low-tech. As little as possible tech. Even Microsoft is saying that. AWS, Amazon Web Services, the biggest software company in the world, is our biggest sponsor. And then secondly, I always say to teachers, you can send me a matriculant that has never touched a computer before, extreme. I can make him a coder in 6 months. But send me a matriculant that can't solve a problem. I'm sending him back to you. It's too late. We need to teach our kids how to solve problems, how to strategize, how to communicate. And that can be done under a tree. We don't need fancy labs for that. Coming from a computer science professor.
Sorry, Prof. Thank you so much. On your presentation, I saw that you were dealing with mostly primary school. Is it possible that you could do this for secondaries as well? Because biggest concern is robotics, coding is going to be compulsory in a few years, and that is a big gap for the secondary students as well.
I asked a grade 10 IT teacher, one of the best in the Eastern Cape, if you teach coding and robotics to learners, where do you start? What do you think her answer was? At the beginning. So whatever we're doing with grade R's or grade 3s is just as relevant to grade 10s if they've never coded before. So our official curriculum goes up to grade 7, but our games are played in grade 8 and 9. We're reaching out to 100 schools in Koberga now, 24 schools on the Cape Flats, and they're all grade 8 and 9s. So and I've played it with 80-year-olds. The only problem with an 80-year-old, they can't see the tokens. But there's no age restriction.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's really a marvelous story. And just following on that particular question, how do you integrate this into a humanities curriculum, for example? Our undergraduate students, what would you propose?
Do you know the joke of the guy that rented someone to worry for him? And then he said, I'm going to pay you 100,000 Rand a month. And he said, isn't that a big problem? He said, well, that's not my problem anymore. I'm paying you to worry. No, joke. I think in humanities, I try to show through computational thinking that it's relevant to any discipline. So a lot of what we do is computational thinking activities, is problem-solving activities. So if you have the frame of mind of saying, but all of these things that coding is just a tool for is relevant to humanities, then the door's open, I think. But there's a research field. All of these, the reason I spent 10,000 Rand to be here today is because I'm continuously looking for fellow researchers, because I'm in computer science. What I'm doing is not computer science. So if anyone here wants to talk to me about a research field on that topic, coding in the humanities, there's a PhD for you, or a master's. I'm throwing the ball back to you. But I also think the logic of coding, understanding what a loop is, understanding what an if statement is, for anyone that becomes a manager that works with an IT department in some stage, having some of that background. Just example, the accounting department threw out algorithms about 15 years ago as a first-year subject. They now say someone can't become a chartered accountant if they don't know anything about coding. I want to dare to say humanities is the same. But that's your research topic. I'm welcome to talk to you. But take it as a challenge. I'm looking for masters and PhDs in the humanities in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, we got one more. Okay, last one.
Hi, I think in complementing in terms of, I think you've answered the question, is that a lot of the humanities are faced with the question of how do we make our students critical thinkers rather than banning AI, right? Because they've now, a lot of our humanities courses are essay writing, and now we are faced with the question of how do we engage our students and help them think critically. And through your quality of abstract pattern recognition and algorithm, having questions in our essay or like in our exams that engages the student to think critically rather than notate or memorize an essay or copy and paste from AI. Is there lens that we need to look at is, okay, how do we sharpen our students' thinking to maybe critique an AI written essay rather than rely on, say, banned AI essays.
Have you done your master's?
Yes, I have.
PhD?
Currently doing it.
Change the topic. Okay, thank you very much. We can talk afterwards. I've got a game with me if someone just quickly wants to see how the game works.